What was once a network of merchants and spies, the Zhentarim are now better known for their standing army of mercenaries. Known as the Zhentalar, the term was derived from a time when the Zhentarim was much more diverse, and the Zhentalar was the military arm of a much larger organization. In recent times, the armies of the Zhentalar have almost become synonymous with the Zhentarim as the organization's main source of their income, with only a few resources still plying in the discretionary trades of espionage, smuggling, and other shadier practices. Today, let us speak of the professional army that serves the Zhentarim network for protection and profit. As a professional army for hire, the Zhentalar can act as guards, exterminators, or just plain old hired muscle. They can be hired as small teams by merchant costers to accompany their goods through particularly dangerous areas, usually Zhentarim-controlled trade routes, or by small cities and towns as additional troops for defense when the local militia is not enough. The Zhentalar are some of the best trained fighting men and women that money can buy, and for any occasion. A Zhentalar recruit that passes the initial training is given the rank of Stalwart. Stalwarts have no authority whatsoever, and are the trained grunts who do most of the heavy and dirty jobs. To preserve the Zhentalar's reputation for quality soldiers, a Stalwart is never sent into the field without a higher-ranking soldier leading them. When there are 4 to 15 Stalwarts, they form a squad, led by a Sternhelm, who is usually a veteran Stalwart with some experience on the field. Sternhelms are usually seen leading assignments involving small bands like caravan duty. A squad of 4 Stalwarts and a Sternhelm costs 20 gold pieces for each day of service, with an additional 2 gold for every Stalwart added to the squad. Sternhelms report to a Swordhaw, a senior soldier who leads a platoon of 20 to 30 Stalwarts and Sternhelms. The base price for a platoon of 20 men is 80 gold per day, with an additional 4 gold per head above that. Above the Swordhaw, we find the Sword Captain. Sword Captains usually do not partake in missions on the field. Rather, they are the ones who negotiate the fees and pay the soldiers their 10-day wages. In military campaigns, the Sword Captain is also the one who serves as a logistics master and can perform other administrative roles. Above these, we have the Lance, who commands up to 5 platoons, which comprises a company. A Lance is usually the head of any small-scaled military campaigns that the Zhentalar are set on, which range from patrolling for a major caravan to guarding a medium-sized town. One rank above the Lance is the Battle Captain, who can command up to 3 companies, which forms a battalion. A battalion is employed when there is a minor conflict between nations. The price for a battalion is not measured in gold coins, but more often starts from a base number in gold upon which looting privileges and an agreement for land or trade rights is added, assuming the war ends in victory for their employers. This is what is expected when one side is willing to pay for Zhentarim assistance. Above the Battle Captain is the rank of Dragon. An Dragon can command a full division of 10 battalions. Since Dragons can have as many as 5,000 men under their command, they have to demonstrate that their trustworthiness is beyond reproach, often by being vouchsafed for by a noble house or wealthy merchant. The next step above the Dragons is the Dark Hand. While every rank below the Dark Hand commands the regular rank and file of the Zhentalar, the Dark Hand is also in command over the Savage editions that the Zhentalar often hire for larger campaigns. Orc and Gnoll mercenaries are not uncommon among the ranks of the Zhentalar, as well as frost giants, and the occasional dragon is not unheard of. the deals that she must strike to bring the monstrous armies to heel often goes beyond gold and glory. A dark hand often has connections within the higher ranks of the Zhentarim, with ties to the Church of Bane or Cyric, depending on the location in which they are based. At the same level as the Dark Hand, you will also find the Bane Fist, or Strife Leader. Although he can command the same amount of troops on the field as a Dark Hand, they are usually assigned to lead magical support of wizards and clerics of the Zhentarim, who operate outside the structure of the Zhentilar. The highest position in the Zhentilar is the High Lord of the Zhentarim, a role currently held by the Paragost of Darkhold. Since the Zhentarim's main business has become running a professional army, the highest rank in the Zhentilar has also become the leader of the Zhentarim. It is said that if the High Lord was to ever gather all the forces of the Zhentilar on the field, the army would be as large as 25,000 soldiers, with an additional 2,000 support troops in the form of highly skilled mages, clerics, and other elite troops such as Wyvern Riders. This, however, is very unlikely to happen, as having the Zhentilar spreading most of their forces across the realms guarding royalties, goods, and cities is a far more lucrative business plan than staking it all on one client. As much as their presence only seeks to line the pockets of the Zhentarim with more power and profit, pulling away the Zhentilar from their current posts would leave swaths of the north undefended, which would put immense pressure on the other factions like the Order of the Gauntlet and the Lord's Alliance to fill in the undefended gaps. However, it is also worth noting that should the entire Zhentilar be called to battle, there are very few armies of nations that could stand against the might of the Zhentilar.